I used to work the night shift at a small 24-hour grocery store just outside of town. The kind of place where hardly anyone showed up past midnight, especially in the winter. The store sat at the edge of a long, empty highway, with nothing but a gas station a mile down the road. It wasn't an exciting job, but it paid the bills. My shift was always quiet, too quiet. By 2:30 a.m., I was the only one inside. The only sounds were the low hum of the refrigerators and the occasional crackling of the old speakers playing some generic instrumental music. I sat behind the counter, absent-mindedly scrolling through my phone, listening to the wind howl outside. Then, the automatic doors slid open with a soft hiss. I looked up, expecting to see someone step in, but the entrance was empty. The doors stayed open longer than usual. A sharp gust of cold wind blew in, biting at my skin. I frowned and checked the security monitor. The parking lot was deserted. Nothing but snow and darkness beyond the reach of the flickering neon sign. The doors finally closed. Probably a sensor glitch, I told myself. It had happened before. But then, a notification popped up on the screen. Motion detected, aisle 3. I tapped the feed. The camera was grainy, but I could make out a tall, shadowy figure standing completely still between the shelves. My stomach twisted. I hadn't heard anyone come in. No footsteps, no sound at all. I blinked. Static. When the screen cleared a second later, the aisle was empty. I stared at the monitor, my heart hammering in my chest. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe the cameras were acting up. Then, from the back of the store, I heard it. A slow, deliberate, dragging sound. I shot up from my seat, my pulse thudding in my ears. It wasn't the usual creak of shifting shelves or the hum of the freezers. It was something heavy being pulled across the floor. I grabbed the wooden bat we kept under the counter for security. My grip was tight, my palms clammy. "Hello!" My voice felt small in the vast emptiness of the store. Silence. Then a soft tap from aisle 3. I stepped out from behind the counter, my sneakers scuffing against the tiles. The overhead lights buzzed faintly, casting a dim glow over the aisles. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, to leave, but I forced myself forward. The dragging noise had stopped. The air was colder now, too cold. My breath fogged in front of me as I approached the storage room in the back. The industrial freezer stood against the far wall, its thick metal door slightly ajar, a faint mist curling out. A sharp, metallic scent hung in the air. And then I saw them. Footprints. They weren't human. Long, clawed imprints, pressing deep into the frost-covered floor, leading from the freezer and disappearing into the dark corners of the storage racks. My fingers tightened around the bat. Something was in here with me. Then, from directly behind me, I heard it. A slow, wet inhale. A shiver crawled down my spine, every hair on my body standing on end. The breath was too close, as if something was towering just inches away. I could feel it, the weight of something watching me. I spun around. The lights flickered, then cut out completely. Darkness swallowed everything. My own ragged breathing was the only sound. The air was thick, suffocating. I clutched the bat so tight my fingers ached. Then movement. Not the normal creak of shelves or shifting stock. Something moved, fast. A whisper of fabric. A scraping sound like nails against metal. My chest clenched. I took a shaky step backward, and my foot landed in something wet. I didn't wait to find out what it was. I ran, shoving past shelves, knocking over boxes, nearly slipping on the cold tile. My heart pounded as I burst through the back door into the main store. The aisles stretched out ahead, but I didn't dare look back. I sprinted straight for the office, slamming the door behind me, locking it with shaking hands. Silence. Nothing but my own gasping breaths. I curled up in the corner of the office, the bat still clutched in my hands, waiting for the first light of dawn. I told myself I was safe in here, that nothing could get me. But then, just as the first light of morning crept in through the blinds, I noticed something. The security monitor was still on. And on the screen, aisle 3, the same tall, shadowy figure standing perfectly still. Only this time, it was facing the office door. I quit the next day, never went back. I don't know what I saw that night, but sometimes, when I'm alone late at night, I swear I still hear it. That slow, wet inhale, right behind me. I used to work night shifts at a fast food joint called Burger House, tucked away at the edge of town. Past midnight, the roads turned silent, with only the occasional truck or lost traveler passing by. The place backed up to dense woods and an abandoned stretch of highway that hadn't been used much since the 1980s. Out here, under flickering neon lights and the hum of old freezers, the nights felt off. It was one of those nights where the air felt thick, humid, heavy, and the silence outside pressed against the windows like a weight. It was just me and Josh, the cook, barely awake, trying to ride out the shift. At exactly 1:13 a.m., the intercom crackled to life with static. Not the usual beep signaling a customer, just static, like someone was breathing into the mic, barely audible but definitely there. I adjusted my headset and said, "Welcome to Burger House. What can I get for you?" Nothing. Just the static deepening like a distant storm until it abruptly cut out. "Hello," I repeated louder this time. Still nothing. Assuming it was a prank or a glitch, I told them to pull forward. A moment later, headlights cut through the darkness, slowly creeping toward the drive-through window. But something felt wrong. The lights were dim yellow, flickering, as if the bulbs themselves were dying. When the car finally emerged from the shadows, I froze. It was a black sedan, old, maybe from the 60s. The kind of car you see in grainy photos or vintage horror flicks. Its paint was dull and scratched, with patches of rust near the bottom. The engine sputtered, sounding like it was barely alive. I leaned out the window, expecting to see someone at the wheel. But the driver's seat was empty. I blinked, thinking maybe the angle was weird. I stepped closer, craning my neck to look inside. No one. Not in the front. Not in the back. Nothing but empty seats. The engine continued to idle, but there was no movement. The air around the car was different, cold, despite the summer night. And the smell, it was like burnt rubber mixed with something rotten, thick enough to make me gag. I whispered, "Hello." Silence. Then, as I stared, the car moved forward. Not jerky or sudden, just a smooth, steady roll, as if someone invisible was behind the wheel. It drifted past the window and around the building. My stomach twisted. I stepped back, my hands trembling. Josh, who'd been half asleep, looked up and asked, "You good, man?" "You didn't see that car?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "What car?" I pulled up the security monitors, flipping through the camera angles. Nothing. No sign of the car on any feed. Then the intercom crackled again. And this time I heard it. A voice, low, rasping, inhuman. "Do you see me now?" The words hissed through the headset, sending a bolt of fear through my spine. I ripped it off, breathing heavily. Josh was on his feet now, confused and concerned. I pointed to the screen. The car was back. But now, someone was sitting inside. A man, pale, almost gray-skinned, dressed in a black suit that looked too tight, too old. His face was expressionless, his eyes wide and unblinking, locked directly on the security camera, as if he could see me through it. And then, without touching the wheel, the car reversed slowly, gliding backward out of the lot. We ran outside, but by the time we reached the lot, the car was gone. No tail lights, no sound, just darkness and the buzzing neon sign overhead. We called the cops. They came, looked around, and wrote it off as a prank. But when they checked the camera footage, there was nothing. The drive-through feed from 1:15 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. was corrupted, static and black screens, like it had been wiped. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that voice again. Do you see me now? The next day I went to check my phone. At some point during the night, a photo appeared in my gallery, one I didn't take. It was a shot from outside the restaurant, facing the drive-through window. And in the reflection of the glass, I saw myself, standing there. Behind me, the man in the black suit. I never went back to Burger House. And now, every so often, I swear I see that same black sedan, parked across the street from my apartment. Engine off. Headlights dim. Waiting. I live alone in a ground-floor apartment in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town. It's the kind of place where everyone minds their business, and after 10 p.m., it's dead silent. My bedroom faces the parking lot, and just beyond that is a narrow alley leading to the woods. The apartment itself is old, creaky floorboards, thin walls, no central heating. The kind of place where every sound feels amplified at night. I always kept my blinds shut as a habit, especially at night. But that night, I forgot, and it's a night I can't forget. It was around 2:17 a.m. I was lying in bed with the TV on low volume, just doom-scrolling on my phone, trying to lull myself to sleep. That's when I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Soft, deliberate, coming from the window right beside my bed. At first, I ignored it. Probably the wind, or maybe a neighbor's car. But then again. 3 slow taps, like fingernails on glass. My stomach sank. I sat up, heart thudding, and glanced toward the window. My blinds were half open, just enough to let in the pale glow of the parking lot lights. I didn't want to move closer, but curiosity overpowered fear. I reached for my phone and turned the screen toward the window like a flashlight. And that's when I saw it. A face, inches away, staring at me through the window. Pale skin, almost gray, sunken eyes, wide and unblinking. And the most unsettling part, his mouth was stretched in a faint smile. Not friendly, not angry, just empty. I froze, every muscle locked. For what felt like minutes, he didn't move. Just stared. No blinking, no breathing, no expression change. Then his hands slowly lifted, pressing against the glass, leaving a smudge mark, like grease or blood. Couldn't tell. That's when I snapped out of it. I grabbed my phone and hit 911. And just as I pressed call, I heard it. A voice, inside. Right behind me. Don't call them. My blood turned to ice. The voice was close, too close, not outside. Inside my apartment. I turned slowly toward the closet door at the far end of the room. It was open, just a crack. And from the darkness behind it, I heard the soft creak of floorboards. Something or someone was in there. My hands shook violently as I tried to keep my phone steady, but the screen slipped from my fingers and hit the floor. Silence. Then the closet door creaked open further. And I saw it. A hand, pale, bony, with long fingers, slowly emerging from the shadows. That broke me. I ran. I didn't look back. I just ran for the front door, barefoot, heart hammering in my ears. I burst into the hallway, slamming the door behind me, screaming for help. Neighbors came out, groggy and confused, but I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. The police arrived within minutes. They went inside, guns drawn, searching every inch. They found no one. No forced entry. No signs of anyone hiding. But they did find something. In the closet, above the shelf, was a small square hatch, leading to the attic. Here's the thing, my apartment doesn't have an attic. Or so I thought. They pried it open, and a sickening stench hit them. Mildew, dust, something rotten. Inside, they found a dirty sleeping bag, old food wrappers, and photographs of me, taken through my window, dozens of them, some from weeks ago, some from inside my apartment. The police said whoever it was had probably been living in the crawl space for weeks, maybe longer, watching me, waiting. To this day, I don't know who the man at the window was. And I don't know if he's the same person who whispered from the closet. All I know is, I never forgot to close my blinds again. And I've never lived on the ground floor since.